I have been a entertainer since the doctor slapped me and said it's a boy. And I've been on stage. That came out in high school, and by the time I was 23 years old, I was traveling the country, speaking everywhere. I think that that is an unhealthy situation. Having that lack of health accumulate in my life, no real roots, gone most of the time, no real close relationships. It's part of what allows you to hide when you're on stage, because you can perform, you can be authentic, you're authentic, but it's that kind of authenticity, that kind of openness, that kind of realness has to happen in real life relationships too.
My son went to college, and I suffered, I guess, from emptiness syndrome on top of a lot of different other struggles that I didn't even know that I had. I had lost my momentum to do things that I used to enjoy doing. I had lost my desire to love myself. I had lost my desire to work. I didn't feel like I had anything to contribute to the world anymore. I headed back to Nashville and I said, Lord, take the wheel, I'm done. And I said my prayers with hopes that I would go over the cliff. When Jesus took the wheel, he actually parked my car. And I sobbed on 24 crying, why, Lord, did you keep me alive? I knew that at that point that something's wrong with me. I just wanted to kill myself, and I was okay with that.
11 years ago, I was a realtor here in this area, and I was in the process of divorcing my husband at the time, whom I had only dated for 18 months and had only been married to for 11 months. Fell in love with him, and in the course of that first year that we dated, found out that he had a gambling problem. And 6 weeks after we were married, I had a suspicion that he was lying about money, and I really started sleuthing and found out that not only had he started gambling again, but he had never stopped. I proceeded in getting the divorce and asked him to move out, kicked him out of the house, and things just went from bad to worse. He started stalking me, harassing me, broke into my house, stole my purse, my credit cards. I ended up calling the cops. He ran off, and they told me without any uncertain terms, you need to get an order of protection tomorrow, and you need to change your locks immediately. And so the next day, I went back to my house. I heard a knock at the front door, and I went to the front door and I looked out, and it was the man that I was gonna divorce. And he said, please open the door and I'll give you your purse and I'll give you your credit cards back, but I need $100. And against all judgment, I undid the lock. I remember a pain so intense that it brought me to consciousness, and I saw his face on top of me, and I remember thinking, if I live through this, you're in trouble.
What brought me to the Refuge Center? This is interesting because the Refuge Center invited me to come and speak, and in the process, I met one of your counselors. And I thought, this is a person that I can trust. I began to deal with issues that I hadn't dealt with for a long, long time. My concerns about how isolated I had become, my concerns about what was happening in my heart, how it was affecting my marriage, those things that was the concerns. And to find some place where I could go was really more of a relief than anything else. There are so many people who struggle, and I can't imagine this, who have nowhere to turn because they can't afford traditional counseling.
There's a YWCA, that's a safe place, and I called the number, and I found my way to the mental co-op. That's where they sent me. Mental co-op had a bed for me, and that was very frightening because it was official in my mind. I'm crazy. But it wasn't anything like that at all. It felt safe. It felt okay, and I cried, I know, for 24 to 48 hours of my life, just crying and crying. So in that respite care process is when I found out about the Refuge Center. The sliding scale was the lifesaver for me because I didn't have a job to pay for what I needed. So long story short, I called my best friend of 25 years and I told her that they had offered me Prozac, and she was like, take it, because you've not been yourself in years. And I was like, there's no way I'm taking crazy pills. I work out, I'm athletic, I don't take medicine even when I have a headache, so taking a pill for me was unreal. And she cried with me on the phone and she said, Tangi, this is finally the help that you're going to get.
I had 4 fractures in my face and strangulation marks. After I was released from the hospital, he was apprehended and put in jail. The divorce became final. He was charged with attempted murder and rape. I felt desperate to try to make sense of what had happened to me. I had 3 notes from just random realtor friends saying, you should contact the Refuge Center. I mean, I really can't put into words how much it helps when you go through a situation that you're just so confounded by and you're so confused, you're so hurt, you're so traumatized, to have someone else help you see it in a different perspective, or to try to piece it together or to make sense of it. My story doesn't end there. One evening I was at home and I was starting to feel better, and that particular evening I was waiting for my daughter, and she was coming home that evening. It was in November. It was going to be her first November holiday home from going to school, so her first break. She called me and she said, I'm in Kentucky and looks like I'll be there in about an hour. Then all of a sudden I heard a knock at the front door, and it was a police officer. And it's hard to even talk about this. And I was like, what's wrong? And the officer said, do you recognize this child? And he had this friend of hers driver's license. And he said, was he with her tonight? And my heart just started pounding. I was like, why are you asking me this? And he said, can you sit down? And he said, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but she was in an automobile accident and it was fatal. She died. There are no words. You can't describe that to anybody. You can't explain that experience. I want to say it was the day after, and I recall picking up my phone and there was a text message, and it was from Amy, and I called her instantly. Our counseling, of course, took a very big turn, because your life can be shattered by being beat up, but then you lose a child and that's just nothing. It's nothing. The Refuge Center helped me through the worst year that anybody could possibly imagine. And thankfully, that has been 11 years ago. And I am a completely different person.
Everybody deserves a chance to get better. What I really want people to know about the Refuge Center, number one, the people who work here genuinely care. No matter what your income, no matter what level of society you come, no matter what your race is, no matter what your religion is, you will find a welcome place here to heal. When you give a gift here, it just doesn't end in a brick. It ends in people's lives being changed, people's lives being saved. That's a wonderful thing to know. There are very few situations where you can give that kind of gift, where you can make that kind of investment and know that it's going to just keep right on spreading.
It just is so important for people to be able to come to a place where there's no judgment and there's acceptance and there's help and answers and support. As far as my daughter goes, I celebrate Emily every day. It doesn't matter what your emotional or your physical or your financial situation is at the time, because if you knock on the door of the Refuge Center, you will be welcomed with open ears and open arms.
Counseling has helped me be a better Tangi. Counseling just simply means that you're smart enough to know that I love me and I need an outlet, someone to talk to.
Hope grows at Refuge because the people who work here, the counselors who pour themselves into other people's lives, care. And they're sharing the hope they have with other people, and that's changing lives.